The massive starship horizon slowed as it approached the meeting point, its engines humming softly against the quiet of space. Captain Jack Harris stood on the bridge, his weathered face calm, despite the importance of the moment. After 200 years of searching the stars, humanity was about to make first contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Status report," Jack said, his voice steady. "All systems normal, Captain," replied Tom Wilson from the engineering station. The young man's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "The Vox ships are maintaining position at the agreed coordinates." Jack nodded and straightened his uniform. The United Earth Fleet had sent their best ships for this historic meeting. Behind the horizon floated 5 modern warships, their sleek hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. And at the center of the formation, protected by the others, was the ancient vessel Prometheus. Jack's eyes drifted to the old ship visible on the main screen. Unlike the smooth, elegant lines of modern ships, the Prometheus looked rough and blocky. Its hull was marked with old-style metal plates and visible repair work. Many people wondered why such an outdated ship was still in service, let alone part of such an important mission. "Open the channel to the Vox flagship," Jack ordered. The main screen flickered, revealing a tall alien with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Ambassador Trell of the Vox Collective bowed slightly. "Captain Harris, the Collective welcomes you to this historic meeting," Trell said in perfect English. "Thanks to the translation software, Ambassador Trell, humanity is honored to make your acquaintance," Jack replied with a diplomatic smile. "We look forward to establishing peaceful relations between our peoples. Indeed, our scans show your vessels have arrived safely. We have prepared docking bays for your diplomatic team on our station." Jack nodded. "We appreciate your hospitality. My team will shuttle over within the hour." As the screen went dark, Jack turned to his first officer, Anna Lee. "Thoughts?" Anna frowned slightly. "They've been scanning us non-stop since we arrived, sir. Particularly the Prometheus." "I noticed that too," Jack said quietly. "Keep our defenses at ready status, but don't make it obvious. I want this to go smoothly." 3 hours later, Jack stood in the grand reception hall of the Vox station, surrounded by the strange architecture of an alien civilization. High ceilings curved overhead, and the walls seemed to shimmer with an inner light around him. His diplomatic team mingled with the Vox officials, exchanging careful greetings and observations. Ambassador Trell approached, flanked by 2 other Vox in what appeared to be military uniforms. "Captain Harris, allow me to introduce Admiral Sex and Chief Engineer Drav. They are most interested in learning about your vessels." Jack shook hands with both aliens, noting the cool, smooth texture of their skin. "It's a pleasure. Our ships are primarily exploration and diplomatic vessels, though they have defensive capabilities as well." Admiral Sex made a sound that the translator interpreted as a laugh. "Defensive capabilities?" "Yes. We noticed your modest shield systems and propulsion technology." Jack kept his smile in place, despite the dismissive tone. "We find they serve our needs adequately. What interests us most," said Drav, the engineer, "is the unusual vessel in your formation, the one you call Prometheus. Our scans detected some curious readings from it." "The Prometheus is one of our older ships," Jack said carefully. "It serves primarily as a ceremonial vessel now, though it's still fully operational." "Ceremonial?" Sex laughed again, louder this time. "How quaint. You humans maintain antiques as part of your active fleet." Other Vox nearby had turned to listen, and Jack noticed several of them exchanging amused glances. "That vessel," continued Drav, not bothering to hide his mocking tone, "uses propulsion and power systems that must be at least several centuries behind your current technology. Our analysis suggests its defensive capabilities would fail against even our smallest patrol ships." Jack felt his crew tensing around him. Lieutenant Wilson, who had accompanied him as technical advisor, spoke up despite protocol. "The Prometheus has served the fleet honorably for generations," he said, his young face flushed with emotion. "It's the oldest continually active ship in our fleet, and that is precisely my point," said Sex, turning to address the growing crowd of Vox. "Our new human friends travel the stars in museum pieces. Look at these scans." A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing detailed images of the human fleet. The Vox officer manipulated the display to zoom in on the Prometheus, highlighting various parts of the ship. "Observe these primitive armor plates," Keck said, generating laughter from the Vox audience. "And these propulsion units. We abandoned such designs 800 years ago. The power core appears to be some form of nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion like children playing with toys." Jack maintained his diplomatic smile, though it had become rigid. "Every civilization develops along its own technological path, Admiral. We're quite proud of our accomplishments." Of course," said Ambassador Trell, stepping forward with a placating gesture. "We mean no offense, Captain Harris. It's just that, well, we had expected more advanced vessels from a species that has achieved interstellar travel. Perhaps we can help you," offered Drav. "The collective would be happy to offer a technology exchange program. We could assist you in upgrading your outdated systems." Jack noticed the gleam in the alien's eyes. This, he suspected, had been their goal all along, to establish humans as the inferior partner in any alliance dependent on Vox technology. "That's a generous offer," Jack replied carefully. "We'll certainly discuss it with our leadership. For now, though, we're quite satisfied with our current technology." As the reception continued, the mockery became less subtle. Vox officials pointed at the holographic display of the Prometheus, making jokes that the translators sometimes refused to interpret. Jack's crew grew increasingly uncomfortable, but followed his lead in maintaining polite responses. When they finally returned to the horizon, Jack called an immediate meeting of his senior staff. "They spent the entire reception making fun of our ships," Wilson said angrily, as they gathered in the conference room. "Especially the Prometheus. I wanted to tell them what it's really capable of." "Which is exactly what we cannot do," Jackie reminded him firmly. "The Vox are testing us, trying to gauge our actual technological level and military capabilities." Anna Lee, who had been quietly analyzing data from their visit, looked up from her tablet. "Sir, I've been reviewing their scan patterns. They've been focusing specifically on the Prometheus, with increasing frequency, almost like they're looking for something." Captain interrupted the communications officer. "We're receiving a message from the Prometheus. Captain Reed is requesting to speak with you urgently." Jack nodded. Margaret Reed, the commander of the ancient vessel, rarely initiated contact unless it was important. The screen lit up to show the face of an older woman with short gray hair and piercing eyes. "Captain Harris, I believe we have a situation. The Vox have been attempting to penetrate our outer security systems for the past hour." Jack frowned. "Are they aware you've detected them?" "No. Our countermeasures are subtle." A ghost of a smile touched Reed's lips. "But there's something else. I've reviewed their scan patterns, and they're focusing on specific sections of the ship, sections that aren't visible from the exterior." A chill ran down Jack's spine. "You think they know?" "Not everything," Reed replied. "But they suspect. The Prometheus is more than it appears, Captain Harris. It always has been. And I believe the Vox know more about its origins than they're letting on." Jack looked around at his crew, then back at Reed's serious face on the screen. The mission had just become much more complicated, and he had a feeling that the mockery they had endured was only the beginning. "Keep your systems on alert, Captain Reed. I think we're about to find out why the Vox were so interested in our primitive old ship." Tom Wilson couldn't sleep. After the humiliating diplomatic reception with the Vox, he kept thinking about their mocking laughter. But more than that, he was curious about Captain Reed's warning. What was so special about the old Prometheus? He sat up in his bunk and pulled out his tablet. Computer display all available information on the starship Prometheus. The screen filled with basic facts. Commissioned 934 years ago. Continuous service with periodic upgrades. Current status as ceremonial flagship. But when Tom tried to access the technical specifications, a red message flashed. "Access denied. Security clearance insufficient." "That's odd," he muttered. "Why would a ceremonial old ship have classified specs?" The next morning, Tom approached Anna Lee in the mess hall. The first officer was drinking coffee and reviewing reports. "Lieutenant Lee, may I speak with you about the Prometheus?" he asked. Anna looked up, her expression careful. "What about it, Wilson? I tried to research its specs last night, but everything's classified. Why would an outdated ship have security restrictions?" Anna glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Because it's not what it appears to be, Wilson. But that's all I can say here. She stood up. Come with me. They walked to a secure meeting room where Captain Harris was already waiting with a stern expression. Lieutenant Wilson has been digging into the Prometheus, sir, Anna explained. Jack nodded. I expected someone would. Sit down, Wilson. Tom sat nervously. Am I in trouble, sir? No, Jack said. But before I continue, I need your word that what I'm about to tell you stays in this room. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Jack pressed a button, and the room's security system activated. The Prometheus is not just an old ship we keep around for tradition. It's the most advanced vessel in the human fleet, possibly in this entire sector of space. Tom's eyes widened. But the scans, the outdated technology, are a disguise, Anna finished. The outer hull is deliberately designed to look primitive. But why? Tom asked. Humanity learned a hard lesson centuries ago, Jack explained. When we first ventured into space, we proudly displayed our best technology. It led to confrontations with other species, who either coveted our tech or felt threatened by it. So we hide our best ship in plain sight, Tom said, understanding dawning. Make it look like junk so no one pays attention to it. Exactly, Jack said. But the Vox, they're not fooled. Somehow they suspect what the Prometheus really is. A knock at the door interrupted them. When it opened, Captain Margaret Reed entered. She was shorter than Tom had expected, with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. You're telling him about my ship, she said. It wasn't a question. He needs to know, Jack replied. Especially since I'm assigning him to work with you. Tom nearly choked. Me work on the Prometheus. Reed studied him with those piercing eyes. You have an engineering background and you're young enough to think creatively. We need that now. She turned to a screen on the wall and activated it. The Vox have requested a tour of our historical vessel. They claim cultural interest, but we know better. What do they really want? Tom asked. They're looking for the core, Reed said. The true heart of the Prometheus, which is Reed exchanged glances with Jack and Anna. I'll show you. Pack your gear, Wilson. You're transferring to my ship in 1 hour. Later, Tom stood in the shuttle bay, waiting nervously with his duffel bag. Anna approached him. Be careful over there, she said, and watch Captain Reed closely. There's no one in the fleet who knows more about our true history. What do you mean true history? Tom asked. Anna just shook her head. You'll see. The shuttle ride to the Prometheus was short. As they approached, Tom got his first close look at the legendary ship. From the outside, it truly did look ancient. Its hull patched in places, its design boxy and practical, rather than sleek like modern vessels. They docked at a simple airlock. Inside the corridors were surprisingly normal, well-maintained, but definitely not cutting edge. Crew members nodded respectfully to Reed as she led Tom through the ship. This doesn't seem very advanced, Tom commented. This is just the outer shell, Reed replied. The public areas. They entered an elevator, and Reed placed her hand on a hidden scanner. Authorization. Reed Margaret, Captain Security Protocol 7. The elevator began moving sideways, which wasn't supposed to be possible. When the doors opened, Tom gasped. They had entered a completely different ship. The corridor was sleek, white with soft blue lighting that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air felt fresher, with a slight tingle that energized his skin. Welcome to the real Prometheus, Reed said, enjoying his shocked expression. She led him to a circular room with a large central column filled with swirling light. Unlike the mechanical hum of normal engine rooms, this one was nearly silent. Is that the core? Tom asked, staring at the column. Part of it, the visible part. Reed touched a panel, and holographic displays appeared around them. The Prometheus was built during Earth's darkest hour, when climate disaster and war had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. The displays showed images of devastated cities, flooded coastlines, and massive storms. Resources were scarce. Hope was scarcer. But a group of brilliant engineers and scientists created something revolutionary, a ship that could take humanity to the stars. But our history books say we didn't achieve faster than light travel until 200 years later, Tom said, confused. History books tell the official story, Reed replied. The Prometheus was kept secret for centuries, making short reconnaissance missions and returning with data that slowly guided our official technological development. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Reed's communicator activated. "Captain, we have a situation," a voice reported. "A Vox scout ship has accidentally drifted into our security perimeter." Reed's face hardened. "On my way. Bring Wilson." They rushed to the bridge. The real bridge, not the decoy one Tom had glimpsed earlier. It was compact, but filled with technology he didn't recognize. A large view screen showed a small Vox vessel approaching the Prometheus. "They're scanning us with focused beams," an officer reported, "trying to penetrate the camouflage fields." "Let them get a little closer," Reed ordered calmly. "Shouldn't we warn them off?" Tom asked. Reed smiled slightly. "Just watch." When the Vox ship was within 500 meters, a barely visible pulse emanated from the Prometheus. The Vox ship's lights flickered and it began drifting. "What did you do?" Tom asked in amazement. "Defensive system, non-lethal. They'll regain power in about 30 minutes. The communications officer spoke up. "Captain, the Vox flagship is hailing us. Ambassador Trell demands to speak with you immediately." Reed nodded, and the screen changed to show Trell's angry face. "Captain Reed, your vessel has attacked one of our ships. This is an act of aggression. Your ship violated our clearly communicated security perimeter, Ambassador." Reed replied calmly. "Our automated defenses responded as they would to any unauthorized approach. Your crew is unharmed." "That technology," Trell sputtered. "It's not possible with your level of development. You've been concealing advanced weaponry." "Not weaponry, Ambassador. Just defenses. And now I believe we need to have a more honest conversation about why you're so interested in my old, outdated ship." Trell's expression changed, becoming more calculating. "Very well, Captain Reed. It seems we've both been less than forthcoming. I propose a private meeting." After the communication ended, Tom turned to Reed. "What just happened?" "They've confirmed their suspicions," Reed said grimly. "They know the Prometheus isn't what it appears to be. What they don't know yet is just how old it really is." "How old is it?" Tom asked. Reed's eyes held secrets older than Tom could imagine. "The Prometheus was launched in 2241, Wilson, almost exactly 1,000 years ago, and its core technology was already ancient by human standards. Even then," Tom stared at Captain Reed, his mind struggling to accept what he'd just heard. 1,000 years. That's impossible. Our official records say we only achieved space travel around 400 years ago." Reed's eyes held a mixture of pride and sadness. "Official records don't always tell the whole story. Wilson, come with me." She led him deeper into the hidden sections of the Prometheus, to a secure room that looked like a combination of a library and museum. Along the walls were physical books, actual paper books, and old artifacts in display cases. Computer access historical archives. Authorization read Omega-7. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing Earth as it had appeared long ago. The planet looked wounded, brown where there should be green, vast areas covered in violent storms. The year was 2240, Reed explained. Earth was dying. Climate disasters, resource wars, and nuclear exchanges had devastated most habitable land. Humanity faced extinction within decades. The hologram showed desperate crowds, makeshift shelters, and flooded cities. During this time, a team of engineers and scientists led by Dr. Robert Miller gathered in one of the last functioning research facilities located in what was once called New Zealand. The image changed to show a group of people working in a lab. At their center stood a tall man with determined eyes and a short beard. Miller had made an incredible discovery years earlier, but few had believed him. Reed continued. His team had recovered something from the Arctic ice as it melted, something not made by human hands. Tom's eyes widened. "Alien technology 1,000 years ago?" Reed nodded. "A ship or part of one?" Most thought it was a hoax, but Miller knew better, and he spent years understanding its secrets. The hologram showed Miller's team working on strange components, using tools that looked primitive by modern standards. With Earth dying around them, Miller's team worked against time to build humanity's salvation. The first Prometheus, they knew they couldn't save everyone, but they hoped to preserve human knowledge and perhaps find a new home among the stars. The image shifted to show a ship under construction. Tom recognized the basic shape of the Prometheus, though much rougher. The original technology was beyond their complete understanding, Reed said. But Miller was a genius. He didn't just copy the alien tech. He improved upon it, adding human innovations that made it uniquely ours. Tom watched, fascinated, as the historical record played out, the ship's completion, the desperate lottery to choose its first crew, the secretive launch as wars raged across the planet. They left Earth in 2241, with just 500 people aboard, Reed said softly. They had no idea if they would find anything out here. No idea if humanity would even survive on Earth. But we did survive, Tom said. History says we rebuilt. Yes, but it was much closer than most realize. Reed touched another control and new images appeared. The Prometheus found a habitable world within 20 years. They called it Haven. Some of the crew settled there while others continued to explore, and they sent information back to Earth. Tom guessed. Eventually, yes, but not for nearly a century. When they found Earth's civilization had collapsed, but was slowly rebuilding, they shared some of their discoveries, but carefully, giving humanity time to develop naturally, rather than leapfrogging with technology they weren't ready for. Tom tried to process all this information. So, this ship is the original Prometheus. Yes, maintained, upgraded, and preserved for a millennium. It remains our most advanced vessel, though few know it. The quiet moment was interrupted by an urgent communication. Captain Reed, this is the bridge the Vox fleet is mobilizing. Multiple warships are moving into offensive positions. Reed's face hardened. On my way. Wilson with me. They rushed back to the bridge where the tactical display showed the Vox ships forming a blockade around the human fleet. Message from Captain Harris. The communications officer reported, the Vox are demanding we surrender the Prometheus for inspection, due to use of prohibited technology. Open a channel to the horizon, Reed ordered. Jack's face appeared on screen, looking tense. Margaret, the situation is deteriorating, fast. Ambassador Trail is claiming the defensive system you used violates some interstellar treaty we've never heard of. It's a pretext, Jack, Reed replied. They recognize something about this ship, something that frightens them. The Vox ambassador has requested a private meeting with both of you, Annalie said, appearing beside Jack. He claims to have critical information about the Prometheus. Reed and Jack exchanged looks. Very well, Reed said. We'll meet on the horizon, neutral ground. An hour later, Tom stood nervously in the Horizon's conference room, with the captains and first officers of both ships. Ambassador Trell entered, accompanied by only one aide, a serious breach of Vox protocol, suggesting this meeting was truly private. Captain Reed, Trell began without preamble. Your vessel's design bears striking similarities to technology described in our most ancient records. Reed remained calm. Does it? Technology belonging to a species that vanished over 50,000 years ago. Sich, a species we know as the Forerunners. We call the artifacts we found the predecessor technology, Reed replied, surprising everyone by openly acknowledging it. Though we've made it our own over the centuries. Trell's large eyes narrowed. That technology is extremely dangerous. Your primitive species cannot possibly understand. We understand more than you think, Ambassador, Reed interrupted. We've had 1,000 years to study it. Impossible, sputtered the aide. Your species barely emerged from your planet for centuries ago. Reed smiled slightly. That's what we allowed everyone to believe. Trell's voice became urgent. You don't understand. The Forerunner technology led to their own extinction. It's why the Vox Collective has strict protocols against certain technological paths. We know about the risks. Reed said Miller's team discovered them too. That's why they modified the original designs. Wait, Tom broke in, unable to contain himself. Are you saying the Vox are afraid of the Prometheus because they think it might be dangerous? Not just dangerous, Trell said gravely. Catastrophic. The power source alone is perfectly stable, Reed finished, and has been for a millennium. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Anna checked her console. Multiple Vox warships decloaking. They've surrounded us. On the main screen, they watched as a dozen heavily armed Vox vessels appeared around the human fleet. A new Vox face appeared on the communication screen. This is High Commander Zack of the Vox. Armada, your fleet is surrounded. Surrender the vessel Prometheus immediately, or we will open fire. Jack stepped forward. This is an act of war, Commander. We came in peace. Peace is precisely what we are protecting, the commander replied coldly. That ship contains technology too dangerous to exist. We will not ask again. The screen went dark. Jack turned to Reed. What are our options? Reed's face was grim. The Prometheus can protect itself, but not the entire fleet. And we're outnumbered 10-1. Then we have no choice, Jack said. We'll have to surrender. Not quite, Reed said, her eyes meeting Tom's. There is another option, but it would mean revealing capabilities we've kept hidden for centuries. If the alternative is losing the ship, I think the time for hiding is over, Jack said. Reed nodded and touched her communicator. Read to Prometheus. Initiate protocol awakening. Authorization. Read Alpha Prime 71. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Tom felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates of the horizon. On the main screen, they watched as the old, seemingly patchwork hull of the Prometheus began to change. The metal plates shifted, realigning into a seamless surface. Lights that had been dark for centuries activated along the hull, pulsing with a soft blue glow. The entire ship seemed to shimmer, as if shedding an old skin. Ambassador Trell stared at the screen in horror. What have you done? Reed's voice was quiet, but filled with pride. Awakened the true Prometheus, the ship humanity built to survive extinction, the ship that carries the legacy of Earth's greatest engineers, who took alien technology and made it better. As they watched, the transformed ship began to move, positioning itself between the Vox Armada and the human fleet. May the stars help us all, whispered Trell. Everyone on the bridge of the horizon watched in stunned silence as the Prometheus transformed before their eyes. The old patchwork hull had become smooth and gleaming, with strange patterns of light flowing across its surface, like rivers of blue fire. What's happening? Tom whispered, unable to take his eyes off the screen. The ship is fully activating systems that have been dormant for centuries, Reed explained. Her face showed a mixture of pride and concern. We've never initiated a complete awakening before, only partial activations for testing and maintenance. The main screen suddenly split to show the face of High Commander Zack again. His expression had changed from confident to alarmed. What is the meaning of this deception? He demanded. Our scans indicate power readings that should be impossible for your technology level. Jack stepped forward. Your scans were correct earlier, Commander. We disguised our true capabilities, just as you concealed your warships until you were ready to threaten us. This changes nothing, Zack declared, though his voice lacked its previous certainty. You are still outnumbered. Surrender that vessel now or Vesurge. The screen abruptly went, dark as the connection was cut. A moment later, a new voice spoke. Not from the communication system, but seemingly from the air around them. External communications, temporarily suspended for security purposes. Tom looked around in confusion. Who said that? Reed's expression was serious. That would be Atlas. Atlas? Anna asked. What's Atlas? Before Reed could answer, the holographic cord projector in the conference room activated on its own. A figure formed in the center of the room, a man in simple clothing that looked strangely old-fashioned. He appeared middle-aged with short hair and intelligent eyes. I am Atlas, the figure said. Adaptive Technological Learning and Analysis System. I serve as the central intelligence of the Prometheus. Tom stared in amazement. An AI that advanced, but our AIs are nowhere near this sophisticated. The hologram smiled slightly. I was created by Dr. Robert Miller and his team in 2240. I have been evolving since then. For 1,000 years, Jack said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. You've been conscious all this time. In various states, yes, Atlas confirmed. I have observed humanity's development, intervening only when absolutely necessary, according to my core directives. Ambassador Trell had backed against the wall, his blue skin now pale. This is exactly what we feared. A self-evolving artificial intelligence, with access to Forerunner technology. Your fear is understandable but misplaced, Ambassador, Atlas said, turning to face the alien. I was designed with specific limitations and ethical frameworks that the Forerunners did not implement in their systems. Why reveal yourself now? Reed asked. She seemed less surprised than the others, suggesting she had known about Atlas all along. The threat level requires it. Atlas replied. The Vox fleet is preparing to fire on the human vessels. I have activated the Prometheus's defensive capabilities, but I cannot protect the fleet without Captain Reed's authorization. Reed nodded gravely. You have it. Protect our ships, but use minimal force. No casualties if possible. Understood, Captain. On the main view screen, they watched as the first Vox ships fired energy weapons at the human fleet. The beams never reached their targets. They simply disappeared about halfway to the human ships, as if absorbed by an invisible barrier. Targeted energy diffusion field, Atlas explained. It converts weapons energy into harmless radiation. That's not possible, Trell whispered. Even our most advanced shields can only deflect or absorb. As I said, Dr. Miller didn't just copy the technology he found. Reed said he improved it, made it more efficient, more humane. The Prometheus was built to save lives, not take them. The Vox ships fired again, this time concentrating all their weapons on the Prometheus itself. The ancient ship glowed brighter as it absorbed the attack. The flowing patterns of light on its hull accelerating. Energy reserves at 120% and rising. Atlas reported calmly. The attacks are actually charging our systems faster than our normal collection methods. Tom couldn't believe what he was seeing. You're using their weapons to power your ship. Correct, Lieutenant Wilson. An efficient design improvement made by Dr. Miller's team. The Vox continued their attack for several minutes, growing increasingly desperate as they realized their weapons were useless. Finally, they stopped firing. They're regrouping, Jack observed, watching the enemy ships pull back to form a new formation. Captain Reed, Atlas said, I believe this would be an appropriate time to demonstrate our capabilities. The Vox appeared to require convincing. Reed hesitated, then nodded. Approved non-lethal demonstration only. Of course. The Prometheus moved forward, accelerating with surprising speed for such a large vessel. It positioned itself directly in front of the main Vox flagship, then released a pulse of energy that spread outward in a perfect sphere. When the pulse touched the Vox ships, they all went dark at once. Every vessel in their fleet lost power simultaneously. What did you do to them? Anna asked. Temporary systems reset, Atlas explained. Their ships will reboot in approximately 2 minutes. All crew are unharmed, but they have lost weapons and shields temporarily. Reed turned to Ambassador Trell, who was watching in shock. Now might be a good time to suggest to your commander that we talk instead of fight. Trell seemed to struggle with himself before finally nodding. I will speak with him. When the Vox systems came back online, High Commander Zach was much more willing to negotiate. A meeting was quickly arranged on the neutral ground of the Horizons conference room. Your technology is clearly based on Forerunner designs, Zach stated, once the formal introductions were complete. Our people have strict protocols regarding such technology. It led to the extinction of that species. We are aware of the risks, Reed replied. That's why the original builders placed so many safeguards into the design, including Atlas. An AI with 1,000 years of evolution cannot be considered safe, argued Zach. Atlas, who was present as a hologram, spoke up. My primary directive has always been to protect humanity while allowing natural development. I could have interfered countless times to advance human technology rapidly, but that would have been harmful in the long term. What do you mean? Tom asked. Societies that advance too quickly often destroy themselves, Atlas explained. They gain power without the wisdom to use it properly. Dr. Miller understood this. That's why the Prometheus has shared its knowledge gradually over centuries. Jack looked thoughtful. So, the reason humanity has advanced relatively slowly compared to species like the Vox was intentional, Reed finished. We had the technology for faster-than-light travel 1,000 years ago, but we weren't ready for it as a society. Quar still looked unconvinced. The Forerunner technology contains elements your kind cannot possibly understand. The risks are mitigated by human innovation, Atlas interrupted. What your people and the Forerunners failed to do was combine machine precision with biological intuition. The hologram gestured, and a complex diagram appeared in the air. This was the original Forerunner design, Atlas said, showing a power core with a distinctive pattern. Then the image shifted slightly. And this is Dr. Miller's modification. Do you see the difference, Commander? Zach studied the images. his expression changing from skepticism to surprise. He added a feedback loop, a self-regulating system. Exactly. Atlas said the Forerunner technology was powerful, but unstable, because it lacked these safeguards. Dr. Miller added them, creating something new, something better, neither fully human nor fully alien. Tom watched as understanding dawned on the faces of both the human and Vox leaders. The Prometheus wasn't just an old ship with advanced technology. It represented something much more important, the best of humanity, our ability to learn, adapt, and improve. Reed stepped forward. Commander, we didn't come here looking for conflict. We came seeking friendship and exchange of knowledge. Not technology, but ideas, philosophy, art, the things that truly matter to civilization. Zach was silent for a long moment. Perhaps, he said finally, we have much to learn from each other after all. As the tension in the room eased, Tom realized that the Prometheus had just accomplished its original mission from 1,000 years ago, not just to save humanity, but to help it find its place among the stars. 3 days after the confrontation, representatives from both the human fleet and the Vox Collective gathered in the grand meeting hall aboard the Prometheus. The ship had become a neutral ground for negotiations, a symbol of both the past and the future. Tom Wilson stood near one of the walls, watching the proceedings with fascination. The room itself was a marvel, with walls that seemed to shift colors subtly, based on the emotional tone of conversations. Captain Reed had explained it was designed to encourage honesty and cooperation. Quite different from the mockery of our first meeting, isn't it? Annalise said quietly, coming to stand beside him. Tom nodded. Hard to believe that was less than a week ago. They're not laughing at our primitive ship now. On the central platform, Captain Harris and Captain Reed sat across from High Commander Zach and Ambassador Trell. The holographic form of Atlas floated nearby, occasionally adding insights to the discussion. We've reviewed the data you've shared, Zach was saying. Your Dr. Miller's modifications to the Forerunner technology are remarkable. In 1,000 years, our scientists never considered such solutions. Perhaps because they were too focused on the power of the technology, rather than its stability, Reed suggested. Miller's team had no choice. They needed something that would last for generations without maintenance. A necessity that led to innovation, Trell said thoughtfully. There is wisdom in that approach. Jack leaned forward. Now that we're being honest with each other, Commander, I'd like to understand why the Vox were so concerned about this technology in the first place. Zach exchanged glances with Trell before answering. The beings you call predecessors, and we call forerunners, were the most advanced civilization this galaxy has ever known. They had technology that could reshape planets, harness the energy of stars, even manipulate time in limited ways. And yet they vanished. Reed said. Not just vanished, they destroyed themselves. Zach corrected. Our oldest records tell of a great calamity. The Forerunners created energy systems that grew beyond their control. Their final legacy was a warning, spread across dozens of star systems. A warning we found as well, Atlas added. In the vessel Dr. Miller discovered. Tom raised his hand hesitantly, and Reed nodded for him to speak. I still don't understand why Dr. Miller's team was able to solve problems that stumped the Forerunners. They were so much more advanced than humans were 1,000 years ago. Perhaps that was precisely the problem. Atlas suggested the Forerunners relied so heavily on their advanced technology that they lost the ability to see simple solutions. Dr. Miller's team, working with limited resources and primitive tools, had to be creative. Necessity is the mother of invention, Anna murmured. Exactly, Atlas agreed. And there was another factor. Dr. Miller understood something the Forerunners had forgotten. What was that? Asked Zach. That technology should serve life, not the other way around, Reed answered. Every modification his team made was focused on safety, sustainability, and protecting living beings. The negotiations continued through the day, with both sides sharing knowledge and history. The Vox revealed that they had discovered Forerunner ruins centuries ago, but had been unable to fully understand or safely use the technology. Humans shared the story of Earth's near destruction and the desperate mission that launched the Prometheus. As the formal meeting ended, Tom found himself approached by Trell. Lieutenant Wilson, the ambassador said, Captain Reed speaks highly of your engineering skills. Would you care to join me for a tour of one of our vessels? Our chief engineer, Drav, is particularly interested in discussing propulsion theories with you. Tom blinked in surprise. I'd be honored, Ambassador. As they walked through the corridors of the Prometheus, Trell spoke quietly. It is humbling for us, you understand. The Vox have prided themselves on being the most technologically advanced species in this sector. To discover that humans, whom we initially dismissed, had mastered Forerunner technology a millennium ago. If it helps, Tom said. Most humans don't know either. The knowledge has been kept secret, shared only with a few. Why keep such achievements hidden? Trell asked. Tom thought about this. I think because humanity needed to earn its way to the stars. If we'd been given all this technology at once, we might have destroyed ourselves with it. Wisdom beyond your years, Lieutenant Trell commented. They reached the shuttle bay where others were gathering for the tour of the Vox ships. Tom noticed Captain Reed in deep conversation with Atlas and moved closer to hear. It's time, Margaret. The AI was saying the original mission parameters have been fulfilled. Reed's face showed a mixture of emotions. Are you certain? Yes. Humanity has matured enough to understand its heritage. And now with the Vox Alliance forming, the final phase can begin. Tom couldn't contain his curiosity. Final phase of what? Reed turned to him with a slight smile. The real mission of the Prometheus, Lieutenant. Not just to preserve humanity and guide its development, but to prepare it for what comes next. I don't understand. Atlas's hologram shifted, displaying a star map of the galaxy. Specific points glowed brighter than others. These are the locations of other Forerunner sites, the AI explained. Dr. Miller found a map in the crashed vessel. The Prometheus was always meant to lead humanity to these locations. Once we were ready, Reed placed her hand on Tom's shoulder. The Forerunners didn't just leave warnings, Tom. They left gifts. Knowledge, technology, art. The accumulated wisdom of a species that existed for millions of years. A galactic treasure hunt, Tom said, his eyes wide as he stared at the dozens of glowing points on the map. One that requires both wisdom and restraint. Atlas cautioned. The Forerunners' mistakes must not be repeated. That's why we need the alliance with the Vox, Reed explained. Their caution balances our curiosity. Together, we can explore these sites safely. Jack Harris joined them, having overheard the conversation. So the mockery at our first meeting ultimately led to this moment, he said with a smile. They laughed at our ancient ship, never imagining it was the key to finding the greatest treasures in the galaxy. Ambassador Trell approached, his expression now one of respect rather than condescension. Captain Reed, we've prepared a formal apology for our initial reception of your fleet. The Vox Collective wishes to acknowledge the wisdom and innovation of humanity. Reed shook her head. No apologies needed, Ambassador. Perhaps we needed that moment of humility before this new chapter begins. As the group prepared to depart for the Vox ship tour, Tom took a moment alone in the observation deck. Looking out at the stars, he placed his hand against the cool window, thinking about the engineers who had built this ship 1,000 years ago, never knowing if their desperate plan would succeed. A hidden panel in the wall beside him suddenly slid open, revealing a small, worn metal plaque. Tom leaned closer to read the faded inscription. We build this ship in Earth's darkest hour, not knowing if our species will survive to see another century. To whoever reads these words in the distant future, we may not live to see the stars, but we ensure humanity will reach them. Carry our hope forward. Below were the signatures of Dr. Robert Miller and his team, the ancient engineers who had saved humanity and set it on a path to the stars. Tom brushed his fingers gently across the ancient words, feeling a connection to those desperate, brilliant people from a millennium ago. They had faced extinction with courage and innovation, creating something that had outlasted them by centuries. We won't let you down, he whispered to the ghosts of the past. We'll carry your hope forward. Behind him,